Merry Christmas, Raider Nation. And the Raiders got a game coming up against the Giants. And this is the fight for the number one overall draft pick. But the players probably don't care about that. We're going to break it all down on today's episode.
Raider Nation, what's happening? Merry Christmas to everybody. Look, first and foremost, I hear the Giants are going to start Russell Wilson. Are they trying to tank the game? Anyways, we'll talk about it on the podcast.
How big can Ashton Jeanty be coming up on Sunday? We'll talk about it on the Raider Squad Show. Merry Christmas. Let's get it.
Raider Nation, it's time. This is the Raiders Squad. Everything Las Vegas Raiders every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Death Star in the desert. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Commitment to excellence starts here. The Raiders Squad Show starts now.
Oh, we had Q in the solo. You know what I mean? That's how we do it here on Christmas morning. Merry Christmas, Raider Nation. If you like the content, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Also, if you're listening to this on the audio side, you probably didn't see Q solo there, but we do appreciate you. So wherever you find your shows and podcasts, you can find us there as well. Give us a 5-star, leave a rate and review. And we do appreciate you rocking with the show. You know, whether you made Locked On Raiders your first listen of the day or the Squad Show your second listen of the day, we do appreciate your continued support. It's been a tough season, 2-13, but y'all have been rocking with us. And most importantly, thank you so much for making the Locked On Network the number one sports podcasting network. That's all because you tune in every week, every day, and that's what helps the channel and the show grow. Before we get into everything, quickly, shout out to our sponsors. Today's episode brought to you by and sponsored by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Now, we're going to get into everything today. In that final segment, as we normally do, Q and Linc are going to be answering some of your questions and comments. So if you're watching this on YouTube, please get them into the chat right now. We're also going to be talking about a little rumor that's been floating around. It has to do with Lamar Jackson. Yes. So we'll dive into that in that third segment. We're going to talk about the Raiders and Giants, obviously, but we got to get to the latest news and injury updates first. And I think the biggest news, obviously, this week for the Raiders was it came out yesterday, right? You got Brock Bowers and Jeremy Chinn on the IR. So that helps. That helps to lose, I feel like, right? Some Raider fans might like that. But what do you think that kind of says? And also to not have Brock in this game in the season that Brock has, he's still a Pro Bowler. But we'll go with you first here, Q. What do you think that means for the Raiders to have, those two names on the IR?
I mean, it's just two less guys that are out there that are contributors. Obviously, Brock Bowers is huge offensively, and he's the number one target. So when you saw, and I saw that he was put on IR, I said, okay, this is the front office's opportunity to try to, I don't want to say tank the game, but just, okay, this is, how they're positioning things. Hey, you've been dealing with a knee injury all season long. No chance of the playoffs. Let's go ahead and shut it down. Let's get you healthy and get ready for next season. So I mean, again, there's ways that the front office can put out a team on the field that may not be as good as a team that they would have put out the week before, if that makes any kind of sense. So Brock Bowers being shut down a day after he was announced as a Pro Bowler, to me, doesn't surprise me at all.
It doesn't surprise me either. I think this is a front office move to try to get their future franchise guy healthy. The thing is, you don't want to run the risk of doing something stupid, having him out there for a meaningless game. And the next thing you know, you end up hurting him more and it pushes him back. Right. You already talk about severe injuries that happen. And first of all, it comes is Mahomes comes to mind because he's not going to be ready to middle of next season, probably with that knee injury. So you don't want to have that when it comes to star players. It made perfect sense to me. I didn't really look at it as front office saying win or lose. I see it as Brock struggling. He leads the team of catches and receiving yards and has done his thing out there. But at the same point, shut him down. It's pointless to have him go out there for these next two games.
Yeah, and in terms of Jeremy Chinn, I don't really feel like we saw the best of Jeremy Chinn this season. I feel like he was such an important piece of the secondary and how they plan to use him. But I feel like we didn't get to see all of him this season. Just your thoughts on that, Q, on Jeremy Chinn this season.
Yeah. He was a big part of that Patrick Graham defense, and I think that he'll be bigger, better, stronger, faster, whatever coming up next year. So I didn't have a problem with them shutting him down. Like I said, I see the role that he could play. I think that he was a good free agent pickup by the Raiders. They only had a handful of them, and they didn't commit big money. He was a 2-year guy as opposed to a lot of the 1-year guys. So I had no problem with that, and I know what kind of like vision they have for that defense led by Jeremy Chinn coming up next season.
First thing I'll say to Jeremy Chinn, when you're covering a safety in the slot, you got to bump him. You can't let him have a free release in this defense. You cannot let him have a free release. So that's a coaching point that's coming up, and I'm glad that he's going to be coming back. Look, he looked to be a good safety. It's just finding the right fit for this Patrick Graham defense moving forward, and so that's a big deal to me. Wasn't surprised about the move there. Look, when it comes to it, no matter what comes out in the next couple of weeks, obviously the game on hand, the Giants, is important. But whatever comes out, to me, it comes down to guys deciding whether they're injured or they're hurt, and whether or not they want to play or not. I think my logic would say shut down Max Crosby. I don't think there's no way in hell that he's going to be able to shut him down.
He's not shutting down.
Well, see, and that's just it. These are guys that want to go out there and play. They don't care, about draft order, and they're not focused on that. They want to, obviously have a good career because their contract, their reputation depends on it. But there are a lot of guys that I would shut down if I was in the front office, if I had the wherewithal to say, look, give it a choice. You want to play or not?
And I think a lot of fans probably feel that way about Max Crosby. But Max Crosby, there's a quote from him, and he says, I don't give a ish about the pick, to be honest. I don't play for that. That's not my job. My job is to be the best defensive end in the world. That's what I focus on every day, being a great leader, being an influence, being that guy on a consistent basis for my team, end quote. So, Linc, you've talked about this before. Players don't care about this pick. They're going to go out there and they're going to try to win. And that's probably the vibe of the team. But when you hear all that outside noise, this is the game for the number 1 overall pick. What do you think that does as a player to you? Does that motivate you more to go out there and win?
I don't see. It's difficult to try to speculate how I would feel in this situation because never really thought anything about that. It wasn't until the Miami situation that I ever thought about a team in the NFL tanking. It was just, it was inconceivable to me. How can you possibly tank? You can do it in baseball. You can throw bad pitches. You can have a bad matchup in a basketball game. You can do it with 5 players. But how do you do it for a team? How does that possibly happen? So I don't know how the locker room would feel if somebody walked around and asked them about the future draft choices. Look, as Q said, there was a lot of guys in that locker room that signed 1-year deals.
Yeah.
So they're playing for their future. They didn't give a damn about a draft choice. They can, they're playing to put the best possible film on for them on film. And the same thing goes like preseason games. Some guys don't want to play preseason. Some guys want to go balls to the wall in preseason. Excuse my language. I apologize. Get carried away when I forget I'm in the presence of a lady. But it's one of those things where you try to get into the head of the player in the locker room. And if I went up to Q and say, "Hey, Q, don't go out there and play this hard. Just miss a couple snaps. How about that?" Q's going to look at me like, "Dude, what did you just
That's
tell
how
me?"
you get injured.
Exactly. That's exactly right. So I don't know how it weighs in the locker room. I know that these guys don't care about the future in the sense of the draft order. Only people like us who want to talk about and speculate on where they're going to go. I know they need a lot of help. The draft is going to be important, but also free agency is going to be important. You don't want to paint that picture for a possible free agent. Well, last year we tanked because we just needed to get in the best overall position.
Yep. Yeah, no, they all in the locker room, all the players told us that they don't care about that number 1 pick, right? Max Crosby was the one that was obviously quoted, and he's the one that's going to have the loudest voice. But everybody, Geno Smith said the same thing. Pete Carroll earlier in the week said the same thing. All the players that we had a chance to talk to in that locker room. Devin White, I got a chance to catch up with him. Michael Mayer said the same thing. Nobody cares about that draft pick. And I think Michael Mayer said it best. Like, this is what we do. This is our livelihood. We're playing for our careers. You think we want to go out there and put out some bad film? They don't. So they want to go out there and win. Now, the front office understands what it means to get that first pick. The front office knows what it means to, be able to set up themselves for the future. But those guys in the locker room, it's not about the future. It's about every single day. That's a great day for them in their career. So they're not worried about that. And that goes across the league. That's not just the Raiders. That goes across the league.
Yeah, and I'm not surprised Max says that. I feel like he goes at every game trying to win every game, and you can see the intensity every week. Max Crosby also, he's dealing with a knee injury. He did not participate in practice on Wednesday, which was obviously yesterday. Tyler Lockett dealing with a wrist injury. He did practice in full. Colton Miller still dealing with that ankle. He was limited in practice. Raheem Mostert dealing with an ankle knee. He did not participate. And Caleb Rogers dealing with a quad. He was limited in practice. So just a few names there for the Raiders to definitely watch out for in terms of the injury report. Do you think we get to see Max Crosby play in this one? I know, Linc, you said you'd probably try to sit him, but he wouldn't want to. But knowing that he is dealing with a knee injury, do you feel like there's a possibility he might sit out?
I don't think there's a set of wild horses in this world that's going to keep Max Crosby out of this game. And rightfully so. Just let him play. You can try to limit his amount of snaps. Like I said, there's a strategy I've seen them do with other pass rushers, prominent pass rushers, bring him in on passing downs. But I don't even think that sits well with Max. He's too much of a visible leader on this team, and I think it would be a chaotic outbreak if we see him jarring with the coaches or players on the sideline. Every time it's happened this year, there's been a big spectacle made of it. So I don't know if that's possible.
No, I don't think so at all. I would expect to see Max Crosby out there on Sunday. I'd expect to see Max Crosby next Sunday. I mean, he understands what it is. Look, the reality of it is, it's not the NBA. You don't have 82 games. It's not in Major League Baseball where you have 162. You have 17. That's it. And these guys work, and especially Max works all offseason. He works, throughout the course of the week during practice and training camp and everything. Like, there's only 17 cracks at it. You think he wants to sit out because the team is thinking about, next year we've got to have this first round pick so we can get our quarterback of the future. He wants to go out there and put it all on the line. He's got 10 sacks this season, fifth time he's been a Pro Bowler right in a row. He's got a lot of things he's trying to build as well, and at the same time trying to show this team what it's all about. So him going out there fires up the rest of the guys in the locker room. So I have no doubt he's going to play on Sunday.
Now, quickly, I feel like we should kind of just talk about what's in the balance for this game. And everybody knows these are two win teams, right? They're both 2-13. They're both two terrible teams, but I feel like they both actually have underachieved in terms of the talent that they do have, because you go over to the Giants side and I look at this defense and there's some good names on this defense and they just haven't been able to put it together this season. Then you got a guy like Jackson Dart, who is a young quarterback dealing with concussion issues, but he's had some moments where Giants fans and his teammates have absolutely loved him. And then obviously Cam Scatterbo, head first into everything. Like, this is a Giants team that's also been very exciting to watch in some ways. But you mentioned a very particular name, Russell Wilson. When you hear that name,
look, I saw that over the internet this morning, Shantelle Q, that there's a possibility, there's a rumor circulating they're going to start Russell Wilson in this game. Again, not surprised. Jackson Dart is their future. So the only solace that we can take into that as Raider fans is that if they have a top pick, they're probably not going to pick a quarterback.
Right.
That's what it comes down to. And that's really the only thing.
They'll try to trade that pick if they get that.
Yeah. I mean, look, that's ultimately the only thing that we have to worry about. But, be it as it may, we were in this position last year when it came down, well, we're in a high draft order and we fell to number 6. It's not a bad pick. You end up getting Astrid, so on and so forth. You move on. But come on now, let's be real. if you really want to play this game and you really want to go out there and win, you'll probably put your best effort. The Giants have been down for so long, like that other New York team and the Jets. They're trying to stockpile as many picks as they can because they know they need to build their team. But if they already have their quarterback, that's the only thing that we can take solace in.
Yeah, it's so funny. In New York, there's conversations about if they get the number 1 overall pick, should they take Fernando Mendoza and then trade Jackson Dart? And it's just like, it's more of a conversation of the fans. But, talking to a couple of the beat writers that cover the Giants, they're like, yeah, that's a real conversation. But the Giants aren't interested in that. The Giants believe in Jackson Dart, so they may. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see them, shut him down just to make sure that he's healthy, because he has had the concussion, history, or not even concussions, but just knowing that he's had to go get checked for multiple concussions. They got to look out for that. They've had to kind of pull him in and reel him in when it comes to his style of play. He's one of those guys that he knows one thing, and it's not really good as far as availability goes, because he's been, there's multiple times he's had to go to the blue tent. So it's a lot to pay attention to when it comes to him. He knows the style of play. I wouldn't be shocked to see Russell Wilson go out there. But at the same time, I mean, we'll see. The one thing I do know is Joe Schoen, as the GM, needs his team to win. So that's a big deal. Or if he doesn't win, then he could lose his job.
There are 2 injuries I recall that are hardest to prove for a football player: concussion and back injuries.
Yep.
Hardest to prove. because you're up to the discretion of the player. And I came back and I was around in a different era where, you might have got your bell rung, as we called it. Yeah. They would ask you the question on how many fingers am I holding up? We told everybody in the locker room, always yell more than one, because no one ever holds up one finger. So 2, 3, take a positive guess. More times than not, the team doctors are going to try to do their best to get you out there when they think your bell's run. Are you okay? You all right? All right, get a drink of water. You're back in. It's not been the same since the concussion lawsuit came out. You've got people overhead looking down. You've got everybody's watching. So whenever you are labeled with concussions, you are followed closely and monitored closely from that point on. And now it's a gamble. It's a question. You don't know if the guy's going to be available or not. What if he doesn't sleep well that night and he has a bad headache? Is that part of the concussion? Should we shut him down? These are things that you have to ask when you have. That's why I say it's two of the hardest injuries to prove: concussion and back.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because for a guy like Jackson Dart, if you're hearing those rumors, and I've heard these rumors too, that they might want to draft a guy like, Mendoza. But the thing is, I think the Giants are like, Jackson Dart is our guy. So it's just the Raiders having to worry about them trading that pick. Because there's a lot of teams that would be interested in that pick. And if you're the Raiders and say you win the next 2 games, because remember, no Patrick Mahomes, and the Chiefs, that's a rivalry game. That's a divisional game. You never know how that one might turn out. The Raiders could end up at 6 or 7, which I think a lot of people would be upset about. But at the same time, none of these players want to go out and lose. So there's that factor as well. So we'll kind of see how that all goes down on Sunday. We are going to be doing a full breakdown on the other side. So keep it locked here on the Locked On Network. You're watching or listening to the Raider Squad Show. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement of this sports season, whether you're following the NFL, NBA, or both. There's no better time to jump in on the action. If you haven't heard it yet, Prize Picks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at 2 player stats. And if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere Prize Picks operates, including California, Texas, and Georgia. Also with Prize Picks, a great thing is they give you a bunch of promos. So on Fridays, there's like a 40% payout boost, and they have those promos to obviously boost up your winnings if you do win. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Welcome back, Raider Nation. Remember, if you like the content, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. You can also follow us on our social media channels. You'll see in the description below the ways that you can connect with us. And remember, in that 4th and final segment, Raider Nation, Linc Q are going to be taking some of your questions and comments. So if you are watching this on YouTube right now, please drop your comments in the comment section, and we'll get to it in that final segment. And this is what we've been waiting for, a full breakdown of who's going to win the #1 overall draft pick. And now this is 2 teams who, you mentioned Russ might play the game. Like, I think Russ would want to go out there and win. Like, I don't think he'd want to throw away that game if he did get an opportunity to start. I just want to say that because he's probably wanting to play for a job next season elsewhere as well. A lot of these guys are playing for jobs, for teams, other teams next season. So let's start off with the takeaways for this one. We'll go with you first, Q. What are the takeaways for the Raiders and I know some Raider fans are going to hate this, to win this game?
Well, first of all, there's no player that's going to be on the field on Sunday at Allegiant Stadium that doesn't want to win. That's I guarantee that every single one of those players that touches the grass is going to want to win that game. Front office, different story. But as far as keys of victory for the Raiders, I think it goes with and starts with and it ends with Ashton Jeanty. If you go and look at the Giants, what they've done really bad this season is tackle. They've struggled. They've had so many missed tackles. And the one thing Ashton Jeanty's done really well, he's done multiple things really well, but he's good at making those guys miss. So if he has an opportunity, and we saw it last week, if he has an opportunity to go out there and get a head full of steam before he's, having to make a guy miss a tackle, that's the recipe for success. I think this game is going to go through Ashton Jeanty. The Giants, they've struggled all season long to stop the run. Yeah, I think it's really simple. I think you feed Ashton early, you feed him often, and you call it a day. I think that's exactly what the Raiders need to do to go ahead and get their offense rolling.
Ditto. Merry Christmas, everybody. Keep it short and sweet. Ditto. Look. It's a simple formula. The Giants have consciously tried to pay so much attention to their defensive front in order to generate pass rush. The last thing you want to do is play into that. So force them to have to tackle, whether it's short passes, getting the ball out of Geno's hands quickly, or I wish they were a better screen team. So that's not really a point that I can really make. But run the football. You got to run the football, and more importantly, you want to speed up the game. You don't want to slow it down. You don't want to make it harder. You're at the end of the season. You don't want to have one of those. I mean, look, we could very well be looking at a 7-3 game, to be honest with you. Yeah. And it would not stretch my imagination with these two teams, a 7-3 game, which would be another snooze fest like it was in Denver a few weeks back, but it is what it is. And so I agree totally with Q. You got to run the football.
Yeah, and I think Ashton Genty is actually the key for the Raiders to win this one. And I hate to say it, but he needs to slow down. I'm playing. But like if they run the ball, that's all they have to do in this game, because the Giants are I think they're dead last when it comes to their run defense.
Yeah.
They're
not good. They're bad.
So if I'm the Raiders, I'm just going to run the ball against them. And Ashton Genty is coming off a game where he went for 188 total yards. Like, he's playing with a little bit of extra juice. So I want to go into our X Factor segment. Like, who do you think is going to change the momentum in this game or make a big play in this game where the Raiders might bounce off of that and maybe get the win on Sunday at home? Q.
Ooh, oh man, that's a good question.
I'm waiting for my ditto. When you'll use a ditto, I'm gonna have the ditto.
You only get to use it once an episode.
Come on. It's Christmas. Where's the season?
Right?
That's true.
Sorry, Q.
No, that's a really good question. I honestly don't know. Like, I don't know who's gonna be type of like an X Factor type of person. It could be Jack Besh, Dante Thornton. Now that Brock Bowers is out, I think he can get a little bit more burn. We'll see him out there. There's a few different guys that I could see stepping up, but I'm more interested in to see what the offensive line is going to do, because the one thing the Giants have, they're not very good at stopping the run, but they do have a good defensive line. You know what I mean? Like, they do get after the quarterback. So I'm interested to see who could be that one on the offensive line or that unit on that offensive line. Can they come together and protect Geno? Can they open up some holes from Ashton? I think that could end up being the X factor, just really the unit, see how they operate. Caleb Rogers was on the injury report, so that's one that I'm paying attention to. He's limited in practice yesterday, so that's really something I'm paying attention to for sure.
For me, it's going to come down to whoever the quote-unquote run game coordinator is for this team. Last week, we saw some good things against Houston. But Q made mention of it earlier in the week in our show. There was a lot of man blocking. There was a lot of double teams at that point, and they were able to keep the tackle window. They were able to secure the tackle window. That's why Ashton had a lot of success. And then, of course, breaking away from safeties and people trying to come up and arm tackle him. That's one of the things he does best. The run game coordinator is going to be the X factor. How do you call this game? Don't call no more zone plays as much. Yeah. You're not as successful. Call run man plays where you're double teaming at the point of attack. I think I've seen it against a couple of teams that they played this year, but more importantly, it's just getting downhill quickly and as effortlessly as possible.
You mentioned someone in terms of Brock Bowers being out. What do you think about a guy like Michael Mayer or even Ian Thomas being, because I thought Ian Thomas would actually have a better season this year. Like, I think there was a lot riding on it. I was like, whoa, like this tight end group is crazy. But I feel like we never really saw that this year. And I don't know if that's necessarily his fault or the fact that the O-line didn't really play well. This offense didn't really play well. But I feel like we didn't really see that come to fruition this season. When you know that Brock Bowers is now on the IR, what do you see for two guys like Michael Mayer and Ian Thomas in these final 2 weeks of the season? Q, we'll go with you first.
Yeah, I've been disappointed by the tight end room because I thought it was very talented coming into the season. And you mentioned Michael Mayer, Ian Thomas. Ian Thomas is an 8-year vet. And I know a lot will be like, oh, he's not very good. He actually is really good. He's a really good blocker. He can catch the ball. He's a good third tight end. Again, third tight end. And Michael Mayer, I thought, was going to, be highlighted as well. That you're going to see a lot of, 12 personnel, which is what we've been talking about for a couple seasons now, and actually use it. And I thought you're going to see a lot of Brock Bowers. Michael Mayer was finally going to show what he was coming out of Notre Dame, and he still just never has gotten over the hump. He's never kind of been that guy. And even when Brock Bowers was out, and we were all okay, it's Michael Mayer time. It still really wasn't. So I'm not too sure what to expect to see for those tight ends, but they're very talented. The Raiders still have, some of the better tight ends in the league, even though Brock Bowers, the best tight end, is out. Michael Mayer is a really good tight end. Since he's been in the league, he hasn't been showcased with the Raiders yet. I don't know what the disconnect has been. I don't know why he hasn't really been a factor like we all thought he was going to be. It just hasn't worked out yet.
The factor is Brock Bowers. You draft Brock Bowers the year after. I mean, all of a sudden the shine goes to Brock. Has a tremendous rookie season, rookie of the year. I mean, what can you do? There's only one football.
Well,
so
but,
when it comes to
even Michael Mayer's rookie year, I mean, they didn't really do much.
Too much turnover. To me, it was too much turnover. I think the best way to summarize, what this tight end opportunity now with Brock Bowers done for the rest of the year is it's opportunity. You have an opportunity to go out there and show what you can do. And there's times that we've seen flashes out of both Michael and Ian. It just hasn't been consistent. And I go back to there's one football and the fact that your offense has been inept at many times when you only get 3 first downs or you're only running 40 plays. There's not enough time to showcase. They can look good in practice. It's hard to get them activated in the game.
Yeah, and so when we go to our do something segment, he was kind of my pick for do something was Michael Mayer because I want him to do something in this game because there we go. The second time this episode, we'll give you a third one. We'll give you a third one because it's Christmas, right? So, we'll see what happens. But now we're gonna get into our do something segment. We talked about X Factor. That's the player that changes the momentum in this game. Yeah. But who needs to do something? Who do you want to see someone on the field do something from all the players from the Raiders? Is it a guy like Jack Besh? Who's a rookie? Caleb Rogers might not play in this game. Is it him on the O-line if he does play? Who needs to do something in this game, Linc?
I think it's Jack Besh. I think this is a great opportunity, again, with Brock Bowers down. There'll only be one football. Now you really only have to share the space with Ashton. If you could find a way to become big. And he's more of a possession receiver. He's not going to stretch the field, in my opinion, but he's more of a big possession receiver. You find a way to get him out in the field, pick up those critical first downs, keep drives moving, sustain drives, keep the defense on the sideline as much as possible, utilize that running game in the first 2 plays to make it a manageable third down situation. Then your big possession receiver comes up huge.
I think it's Malcolm Kuntz, right? I mean, we've talked about him all season long being that Robin to Max's, Batman, and he just hasn't been that guy. You're starting to see him get a little bit more comfortable the last few weeks. You're starting to see him, be around the ball a little bit more, around the quarterback a little bit more. I think he needs to finish the season off really strong. Obviously, it's not going to matter as far as Raiders win losses and how much of a difference maker, but for him in particular, he needs to go ahead and continue. I mean, again, he's coming off the ACL injury and tear. And for a guy that's torn both my ACLs, it was never me wondering if my leg was okay or my knee was okay. It was between the ears. It was me just trusting that I was okay. Like, it was physically fine, right? It was just like, all right, is everything good to go? Am I good? And it was just like a concern. I think he's starting to shed that concern in his head, between his ears. I think he's starting to understand that, yes, I am healthy. And I know it's, again, way late in the season, too late to be a big time difference maker. But for him in particular, I think that would be big if he could do something, continue to get healthier in his mind and his body, and finish off the season really strong.
Last game we saw, the Raiders, this O-line play a little bit better. They still allowed 3 sacks, but they looked a little bit better in the game against the Houston Texans. What else do you want to see from this O-line? And were you impressed with that last game, like looking back at it and how well they played against that Houston Texans D-line, Linc?
No. You guys know me. There's no moral victories. I don't care how you did. If you miss a math question by 1 point, you got it wrong. I mean, no. I can't give positive grades to offensive lines. I don't care. Giving up 3 sacks is still not a good number.
Right.
You want to go with no sacks. No. Right. And even against it, and we're talking about a defensive line, this Giants team's got a defensive line. I'm worried about them too. So, coming to back-to-back weeks. But no, I don't give positive grades out for losing teams. No.
No. I mean, look, they gave up the 3 sacks. They still had moments where you looked at them and say, yeah, they're not where they need to be. There was some guys that you felt a little bit better about. I think we could say that. Caleb Rogers, I think he's continuing to grow as a 3rd-round pick. I think that's good. Like I said, he was injured and on the injury report yesterday, so that's something to pay attention to. DJ Glaze, I feel like he's doing a little bit better, right? Individually. Kappa at the center position, a little bit better. But these are all individuals. It's not as, well, this unit all of a sudden is playing a lot better, right? They still need wholesale changes in the offseason. They're coming. There's no doubt about that. If they want to have a chance to succeed, there'll definitely be, some wholesale change along that offensive line. But some of these guys are getting a little bit more comfortable with the guys around them, and so you're starting to see them play a little bit better. But as a unit, it's still not where it needs to be.
That's the synergy that I was talking about coming together as an offensive line.
Yep.
That's when you finalize and stabilize your starting 5, having them play together. It takes time. I've been on this all year. And of course, we had these mixed matches because of injuries and whatever coaching decisions. But, now that Caleb Rogers is a possibility he might not play, you go to the next man up. Is that going to make much better? So, are we sitting here and say, well, they only gave up 4 sacks this next game? Because without no. There's no rewards for being close.
Depending
on you playing horseshoes.
Well, depending on if you want them to win or lose, and I'll bring that to you guys right now because we're gonna get into our predictions now. What is going to be the final score for this game? Do you see the Raiders winning at home in this one? I think they have a very good chance to win, if I'm going to keep it real. Q, do you think the Raiders get this W at home on Sunday?
I actually do. I actually do think that they're going to win this game. I don't see the Giants. I know that they need to win. I've done enough research with, like I said, folks that cover the Giants where they need to win. Their GM needs to win, but they're I don't want to say shutting guys down, but their left tackle, there's a good chance he's going to be out. He's really stinking good. Right tackle, I think everyone knows him. Remember the name Jermaine Illuminor? That's who he is. So I can see the Raiders defensive line having a big day against that unit. I think that the Raiders are actually going to win this game, to be honest. And I know a lot of Raider Nation does not want to hear that. The players don't care. Again, the players do not care about anything for the future. They want to win right now. So I think on the strength of that and based off what they did last week against Houston, I think they're the better team right now.
Not to ask me. You guys know we do this every week. How I can't go against the guys. I can't go against my heart with the Raiders. Even though I'm trying to be practical, realistic, and logical, I cannot just pick against the team. But I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. Mm-hmm. I can honestly see something like a 10-7 game, to be honest with you. So, but you guys know where my heart is.
Yeah, no, I'm not surprised with that, Linc. The way that we've gone this year, the Raiders should have been undefeated.
Absolutely, damn straight.
So that's the thing. But in terms of that number 1 overall pick, and everyone's talking about, this is 2 teams, 2 wins on the season. They're fighting for that number 1 overall pick, meaning their fan bases would like them to lose at least like 90% of their fan bases. Do either of you care about that as well? Following this team and being very close to this team as well? Like, Q, is that something that you even care about?
It is something I care about. And the reason is I would like to see them get the number 1 spot only because they'll put them in a position of power, right? For the NFL draft. I don't, it's easy to say, oh, they're going to go get their quarterback. Fernando Mendoza's the guy. Like that's the easy basic math. 1 + 1 = 2. And that could be as simple as it is. But if the Raiders get the number 1 overall pick, they're in such a position of power where maybe they decide to move on for Pete Carroll. Now that's attractive to a young up-and-coming coach. You got plenty of salary cap space. You got the number 1 overall pick. They can handpick their quarterback if they so choose. They could trade back. There's so many different options. So if they move on for Pete Carroll, a young up-and-coming coach like a Ben Johnson last year, right? Ben Johnson didn't come to the Raiders. Why? Because they didn't have a quarterback, right? But if they had the number 1 overall pick and they had the opportunity to go get his quarterback, maybe there would have been a different conversation. And all the salary cap space, obviously the Raiders have to describe and let everyone know exactly who's in charge and how it goes. But number 1 overall puts you in position of power. You don't even have to take the quarterback. You could trade back if you want to. You can get a boatload of picks and then maybe go address that later. And I know that the Raiders need to get their franchise quarterback, but go get the guy that they really do truly like. Is that guy in this draft? I don't know that answer. I can't tell you. I don't know who's making the decision on that. I don't, we don't know who the coach is. So, that's the different, like the conversations that will be had after week 18 is over. But if they end up with that number 1 overall pick, they could do so many different things. That's why I would love to see them have that.
For selfish reasons, I want the Raiders to be successful. For selfish reasons. I would love for them to win as many games as possible. I would love for them to challenge for a Super Bowl for selfish reasons. Also because we covered the damn team. So I would like to give something good to talk about rather than having something negative to talk about. But I tell you, being in this position, what I'm ultimately worried about is that other New York team, New York Jets.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because of the stockpile of draft picks they got, I'm worried that if the order remains the same like it is right now, somebody's going to jump in front of the Raiders to get their quarterback.
Yep. Exactly.
And much to Q's point, I don't know. I haven't evaluated college guys. I really don't care about college guys till after the end of the season. Like I don't watch basketball until pro basketball until today, Christmas Day. That's when I turn it on. Everything else is
great slate of games, by the way.
I know, and I'll be watching it. But the thing is that this fan base, and we have been so critical of the Raiders over the last couple of years because of the product. and we've seen it change hands so many times. We asked ourselves the questions this season, who's in charge, who's making the calls. Right now, it seems like it's bad. It's really bad, and it's unfortunate. So, like I said, I want the Raiders to win as many games they possibly can, but that's not building for the future. This current roster is not going to get it done. They have to address it. Now, whether they start in the front office with coaching and then move down to the players, so be it. They'll do their own evaluation. That's why we talked about who's the possible number one pick or number one overall. But I know what has not happened to this team since I've covered it. Since they got Derek Carr, there has not been a franchise quarterback.
True. They've
just been putting a Band-Aid over everything.
Yep.
Now you have to address it.
Yep.
And you can't keep telling me, well, we didn't get our guy, we're going to pass up and wait next year. No, your fan base doesn't deserve that. They deserve more. And we deserve to have more positive conversations about this team. So I want this Raiders to find a way to turn it around.
Yeah, and they were getting Band-Aids that didn't even stick. So, it's been tough for all Raider fans, Raider Nation. And, of course, we do cover the team, so it's been a little bit difficult. But I also don't think there's a clear-cut number one overall for the quarterback position, because Dante Moore might not even be in this draft. He hasn't officially declared. Fernando Mendoza looks great, but we don't know.
Mendoza hasn't declared.
Yeah.
Nobody has. We all assume he's going to go, but he hasn't even declared. So we really don't know who's going to be in the pool when it comes to all these quarterbacks. Ty Simpson, I think he's going back to school. All these guys.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw my name in the hat. I'm not a quarterback, but I'm going to put my name out there for the draft. I got a little bit of eligibility just left.
First round pick.
And after seeing Phillip Rivers out there at 44, hey,
there you go.
55 can get a chance. Who knows?
Sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. With all the rules and everything too, you never know. You could go back to college. This is
I get a gray shirt. Do I get one for COVID? And I can do a gray shirt, a red shirt, and transfer around. I want to do all that.
I just don't go to Oregon. The UW fans would hate that.
Oh no, that's not happening.
Yeah, you can't do that. Okay, so you guys both have the Raiders winning this one. I think the Raiders might win this one, and I hate to say it.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, because the number one overall draft pick means the most to me. I've been scouting since week 2 against the Chargers.
We know you have.
Right? Since that Monday nighter. I've been scouting this whole time. So I would love to see them get that number one overall pick, but I would like to see them lose like how they lost against Houston. That is the most perfect loss that I have seen I was satisfied. I was like, this is the type of loss that I want to see if they're going to lose a competitive game where they lose just by 2 points. But we'll see what happens. If you're watching this on YouTube or if you're listening to this, you can always hop into the chat at another time. But let us know if you have the Raiders winning this one. And on the other side, we're going to be talking about another quarterback that could possibly be on the move for next season. So keep it locked here on the Locked On Network. You're watching or listening to the Raider Squad Show. Merry Christmas. That was a quick break for you, Raider Nation. Remember, if you like the content, hit that like and subscribe button. You can also follow us on our social media channels. And thank you so much for making the Locked On Network the number one sports podcasting network, and also for helping to continue help this channel grow. If you haven't hit that like or subscribe button yet, please do. If you have, we do appreciate you. All right. So there's been a bunch of articles that have come out recently, and there is one that came out on the Baltimore Sun by Mike Preston, and he said some really interesting things that he believes that the Ravens should trade Lamar Jackson. He also alluded to a bunch of things of, Lamar Jackson not being totally prepared. I'm not going to get into all of that because that could also be speculation. This is allegedly, I never want to say someone doesn't prepare for a game, especially an athlete who's the quarterback of the team and the best player on the team. But essentially, and also Nick Scott per ESPN also said that the Ravens are going to have to make a decision whether to keep Lamar Jackson or Harbaugh, right? This is a conversation that's going on. And one of the teams that has floated, into the rumors has been the Raiders, because Lamar and Tom are cool, right? And Tom's been making some decisions, y'all. That's what we've heard. If Lamar Jackson was on the trade block and you have some assets, if you're the Raiders, and we don't know who's making the decision, so let's just put that out there. But if you're the Raiders, would you go out and get a player like Lamar Jackson? Q, Link's leaning back right now. If you're not watching this on YouTube,
but I don't want to fall.
Okay. So we'll go with you first, though. If Lamar Jackson is available and the Ravens are kind of shopping him, and you're the Raiders, would you go and get him?
4 years ago, yeah. Now, not so much. And it's not because he's not a super talented dude, because he is. I mean, he's a great quarterback. I love watching Lamar, but to me, it feels like he's starting to lose his superpower. To me, he's starting to be more banged up. There was a time we talked about Lamar. We're like, man, this is the one guy that runs around and he stays healthy. He's not the guy who takes big hits. He gets down when he needs to. He gets out of bounds. But all of a sudden, now he's been not healthy all season. Hamstring, ankle, toe. So, you know what I mean? It's like one thing after the other. Knee injury. I don't see it right now. And oh, by the way, don't forget, go and look at the contract. He has another one upcoming. So if you were to trade for him, you've got to also give him a contract extension, which means $60+ million. He's not going to settle for something less than Dak Prescott. I promise you he won't. I don't think a team like the Raiders are in any kind of position to do that. You need to go and get your first-round pick quarterback, get him on a rookie deal, build around him. That's a team's best friend, is a rookie contract, quarterback rookie contract. You could build around them and work from there. I think Lamar Jackson's fantastic. When they didn't put the exclusive franchise tag on him and he was available, I think every team, including the Raiders, should have been interested. Nobody was, because they didn't want to pay that guaranteed money that the Browns had just paid Deshaun Watson. So they all decided, hey, we'll sit this out. We're not going to be a part of that. I thought that was a mistake. But now, no, I definitely wouldn't.
You know, I'm going to back this up because I remember when Lamar Jackson was drafted.
Damn.
No. I've already used all my dittos up. I used all my free lives up on my video.
Dang.
So they're all gone. And my do-overs. Back it up. You know, the Baltimore Ravens a few years back had created an offensive system that was conducive to Lamar Jackson's talents. That totally changed their system. Then they complemented it with Derrick Henry and so on and so forth. You have their point. Yep. I'm practical in this way. If you're not getting over the hump with somebody who's your main cog, yes, you have to change. I don't have a problem with that. For some reason, the Baltimore Ravens haven't been able to make a Super Bowl. I'm not sitting there I'm not trying to figure them out. But no, to answer your question, Shantelle, don't make a trade for him, because this is just another Band-Aid. It might be a big glorified Band-Aid, but it's a Band-Aid. You're still going to need to address the franchise quarterback from one point or another. And Q is absolutely right. That rookie contract is a team's best friend. The going market for a starting quarterback starts around $25, $30 million. That's the starting, whether he's good or not. That's what the going market is. That's what it happens. But if you go out there and you get a guy like Lamar, then you have to pay him that that big money. Mm-hmm. You're not doing yourself any favors. It's not necessarily going to turn things around, because yes, he's an agile quarterback. He can run, he can throw, and all that other stuff. Like Q said, I believe he is on the tail end, the last end of his years as a player, especially taking the hits that he's taken. And we've all seen mobile quarterbacks have a very short shelf life.
Yeah.
So what are you expecting? Him to change up his game if you bring him in, or for you to adjust your offense to a style that's more conducive to his strengths? It's still a lot of turnover. And because there's so much uncertainty, both in the coaching, play calling, offensive strategy, everything else, it'd be a disaster to bring a premier free agent quarterback in at this particular point.
Okay, and I'm not in disagreement with y'all, because I think Lamar has been extremely injured this season, and now we're seeing the wear and tear, right? But no, Lamar is like my favorite player in the league. So I'm like, but
I felt the big button smile coming on. I felt a little Bell Biz the Bow moment coming on.
This is the only thing. If the Raiders end up winning the next two games and they get the 7th overall pick or their 6th overall pick, and say Fernando Mendoza is gone and that's their guy, and say Dante Moore does not actually announce that he's going to enter the draft. Let's just say these things happen hypothetically, and the Raiders land at 6 and 7, because I do think it's very possible they win the next two games.
I did too.
Then do you think about guys like Lamar Jackson or Joe Burrow, Joe Burrow could also be on the move, a Tua Tagovailoa, and I think Raider fans are screaming right now that I said that, a Kyler Murray. These are huge names that could possibly be on the move and be rocking different jerseys next season. And do any of those names kind of just go out to you and be like, maybe we should get a guy like this if you land with the number 6 or 7 pick?
For me, you have to, for a guy like Joe Burrow, you have to at least think about it. Yeah. But even then, he's got an injury history, right? Again, I go back to the rookie quarterback, rookie contract, and build around that guy. And if you don't get him this year, and look, there's a chance, and I'll just be, frank with you. There's a chance, even if they get the number 1 overall pick, they're not going to get a quarterback. there's a chance that they trade that pick back because they're not 100% sold on the quarterbacks that are in this draft. That's not me saying that's what I want. That's what I know. I know that they're thinking about all these different options. Again, I go back to the position of power. If you get the number 1 overall pick, you could do a lot of different things. If you don't get your quarterback, let's just say they don't, you could go and address the offensive line, get the best offensive lineman there that's available. You can get a guy like maybe an Arvell Reese, right, who very easily could be the best guy in the draft period. Yes. You can go get a guy like Caleb Downs, who very well could be the second best guy in the draft period, right? But those are, off-ball linebackers and safeties. That's not going to get a lot of, oh man, that's a great value pick. Like, you're not going to get that. So it all depends on how everything plays out, where they end up. Like you said, they could end up as low as number 7. They could be as high as number 1 or as low as number 7 based off these next 2 weeks. So we'll know sooner rather than later. But there's a lot of different things that they can't do. The one thing that they have to do, John Spytek has to take control of this roster and turn it over to make it a younger roster that are all really good players that are contributing at a high level. So there's chances that they can leave this next draft in April out of Pittsburgh without their franchise quarterback. I know the Raider Nation doesn't want to hear that, but there is a chance.
We're talking about a young team that has a lot of potential and a lot of star power. And there have been serious speculations I've read all year about what the Raiders should do and who they should get rid of. And do they do something as drastic what the Jets did when they traded away 2 of their star players to stockpile draft points? So my thing is this, Shantelle, you mentioned I think 4 different quarterbacks.
Yeah.
3 of those quarterbacks I wouldn't touch. And Joe Burrow is the only one I would probably give some favor to. But I think with this offensive line and this offensive strategy, even that is a big gamble. They really have to address the quarterback position. And I don't know if you really want to give up in your entire future like other teams did to give like the Jets that many number 1 draft choices. I don't know if that's it, but you really got to find a way to address this future at the quarterback position. And I just don't think you put a Band-Aid on it. Kyler Murray, I wouldn't touch. Two, I wouldn't touch. I wouldn't touch Lamar, as we talked about, maybe because you have to change up the offense for him. You probably have to change up the offense for anything you have to do. But right now, bringing in somebody like Joe Burrow, you don't have the weapons for him to throw to other than Brock Bowers.
Right.
So
or the protection.
Yeah. So I mean that plays into mine. But I totally agree with Q's point, and he said he's going to be frank. I'm going to be Lincoln. Says he's going to be frank. Anyways, I totally agree with Q's point that we have to make the right decisions at the right time and get your players that you are going to make yourself better and competitive. They're not there yet.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you on that. I don't think I'd touch Tua. I don't think I would want someone like Kyler Murray, who's always injured, but a fan of Kyler Murray when he is healthy and plays well. But Joe Burrow is probably that interesting name. Also, Lamar doesn't even have the protection in Baltimore. So
that's why he's running. That's why he's running for his life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's something the Raiders have to address. And I think both of you are right. The Raiders might not even draft a quarterback.
Right.
Even if they had the number 1 overall pick, if you're not sold on a guy.
Exactly. That's the thing. And look, I think Mendoza is nice. I don't think Mendoza is Caleb Williams. I don't think Mendoza is Jaden Daniels. I don't think Mendoza is Drake May. I just don't. I think he's good. I don't think he's like some phenomenal quarterback he's not Andrew Luck, right? He's not you've got to get this guy. If not, man, your franchise is going to be set back for 15, 20 years. I don't think that. I think he's a good quarterback. He might end up being a really good quarterback in the league, but he doesn't seem to me as just like a generational talent, they like to say, right? To me, he doesn't seem like that guy. I don't think this draft has that as far as the quarterback goes. Dante Moore could end up being that guy. Very, very young. He's got a lot of just playing football that he's got to do. He's only 20 years old.
Yeah.
Is Dante Moore coming out?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I didn't read anything. I thought you guys might have.
He's got Nike money.
Yeah.
I know how much I spent on Nike. They have plenty of money.
Yeah.
I mean,
look,
they can pay him to stay there.
In my guide to draft, and there are 4 positions that you go with number 1 if you have the number 1 overall pick. It's quarterback, it's franchise tackle, it's shutdown corner, and it's rush end.
Yep.
That's where you go number 1 if you have that pick. With that being said, and much to Q's point, because it's limited, I think the Raiders would be mistaken if they don't find a way to get a franchise quarterback.
Yeah.
But if there's only one that's available, it's not like the draft it was a couple of years ago when they got Brock Bowers, when there were 6 win the first round. I mean, even some of those guys are coming up with question marks. I saw a title today about the Vikings deciding the future of JJ McCarthy up there in Minnesota. So I mean,
he can't stay healthy.
Can't stay healthy.
Yeah.
So the things that come down to that. So you got to really do your homework. And of course, we all want this team to turn things around and put it back in a favorable position. Just make sure they get the right guys to do it.
Yeah, and I'm very happy the Raiders didn't draft JJ McCarthy. I just want to say that. Just throwing that out there because I'm not the biggest fan of his game. But yeah, we don't actually know what the Raiders are going to do. But I thought the Lamar Jackson rumors were kind of interesting because I think it was the year that the Raiders decided to go after Jimmy G. And I was like, what are we doing here? But that was the year where I was like, go for Lamar or something like that.
Band-Aid.
That would have been the year. But that was definitely a Band-Aid that didn't work. It was the no-name Band-Aid. But I'll say this. It'll be interesting to see what the Raiders do. We'll see what happens in this next 2 weeks. And if the Raiders do get the number 1 overall pick, but nonetheless, we're going to be breaking this all down until we get to draft day. And we'll have a lot of good free agency shows and some draft shows as well as that comes up. But keep it locked here on the Locked On Network. If you have any questions for Frank and Linc, drop them in the comments because they're going to be taking some of your questions and comments on the other side. So keep it locked here on the Locked On Network. You're watching or listening to the Raiders Watch.
Oh, I love you, sis. I love you. That's funny.
Welcome back, Raider Nation. Merry Christmas. Remember, if you like the content, hit that like and subscribe button. Also, we got to get Q sponsored by Nike. I will say that. I've never seen someone with so many Nike fits. Q has all the Nike fits that you can imagine. So we got to figure out a way to get Q sponsored here. Some really, really good questions that we got here in the chat. So if you're still in the chat watching this on YouTube, drop some more comments. Also, if you're listening to this, you can always hit us up later and we might be able to get to it. We're going to go over to Anthony 1297. My question is, we all know Pete is going to be fired. Who is your head coach candidates? I like the Rams, DC, Chris Shula, Seahawks, Kubiak, 49ers. Listen, there's a bunch of head coaches we can name. I mentioned Marcus Freeman last time. Are there any coaches that kind of pop out to you where you're like, the Raiders got to go for him?
To me, no. I say that I don't know, but to me, there's no Ben Johnson. There's no, Liam Cohen. There's not the guys that everyone's looking at. Man, that guy's going to be a head coach next year. Like we heard about Ben Johnson for how many years before he actually took the job in Chicago, right? There's not that guy, but Shula's been talked about a lot. The DC from the Rams, Kubiak's been talked about a lot. Kubiak was talked about last year. Remember the first 4 games in New Orleans? It's like, oh my gosh, this guy's going to be. He was the next Ben Johnson, and then the Saints went down the drain. And so now in Seattle, he's got a resurgence. So his name is big again. I was just talking about this the other day on my radio show. There hasn't really been that name that's popped, which doesn't mean there's not some really good quality guys out there. It's just we're not talking about them right now. So in the next 2 weeks, obviously we know what happens on that Monday following the final game of the season. You'll start really ramp up and hear these different names. But as far as like just the ones that you have to have, like Ben Johnson, that name's not out there this year.
I agree with Q. I don't see a name that sticks out. And I see Robert Saleh, and if he's going to get another chance as a head coach, I don't know if that's going to happen because I can't put the carriage in front of the horse. I'm not trying to escape the question, but I need to know who's making the decisions. Yep. If we bring in another guy, all we're doing is doing the same thing that we've done the last 3 years. Bring in another guy. He's going to change his coaching staff, going to change the philosophy. Now we need to engineer or melt the team to fit that philosophy. So there's not a name that stands out to me right now because I go back to my basic. Who's calling? Who's making the calls? Who's making that call? Even if you do have the number 1 pick, who's making that call to this possible head coach?
Okay, I'm going to quickly throw this other comment in it because they're going hand in hand. This is LEF, I know 2026. Speaking of coaches, rumors are the Browns might let Kevin Stefanski loose. Could he be an option? That's another name. Obviously, there was a bunch mentioned before. Would you be interested in Kevin Stefanski?
He won't be out of a job long. If they let him go, he'll get picked up really quickly. That would be a coach that I'd definitely be interested in. I think Kevin Stefanski is a really good coach. I think the situation in Cleveland, he did not want. I don't think the situation in Cleveland that they have right now, Andrew Berry, the GM, wanted. That's just from everything I know, and the people that I know that are there are like, this is not what it looks like from the outside. I think Kevin Stefanski is a really good head coach. I think he'll have a handful of teams that are chasing him if he gets let go. And every year there's like what, 7, 8 teams that have head coaching openings. Yeah, he'll get swooped up quick.
I don't want my head coach to manage offensive play calling or defensive play calling. I want my head coach to manage the game.
Mm-hmm.
He can have his influence in the coaching style, but I don't want him to come in as a glorified offensive coordinator calling plays. I think they lose. Right. You get distracted on the points and the emotions of the game because you're trying to put together a total game plan. But I also look at the disaster that was in Cleveland. There's really no reason for them to draft that many damn quarterbacks last year.
At all.
Why? What do you possibly – now you're telling me that there is some conflict somewhere in the front office or somewhere in decision-making. And then ownership. And then on top of that, there's a possibility for you to lose your job. Just way too much that I don't want to pick up the pieces.
All right, let's go to Greg Fine. Why is Isaiah Palomar always out of position when it comes to pass coverage?
Oh, I think a lot of times, to me, it just feels like that he's still thinking. And when you're thinking, you're a step behind. It's just that position. All positions. You just have to be able to react. You don't have to. If you think, you're already behind. And that's, to me, when I see Isaiah out there, I think he's a really good player as far as being able to break up passes and be real physical out there, that safety position. But if you hesitate 1 second to think, these players are so fast, they're so big, they're so strong, they'll go right past you, through you, whatever the case may be. I feel like that happens more times than not, that Isaiah is just thinking one step, or one before he takes that first step, and that makes him a step behind.
I still think he's struggling to understand the cover 3 concept at safety. Yeah, I think that it comes down to big communication. You got to have a veteran back there who knows how to run and how to, delegate. There have been times where Isaiah's been in right spots with interceptions, come up with big plays, and great play. But when you go back to all 22 and you break it down, like, he's not supposed to be there. Right. Why is he there? So much to Q's point.
That goes to the defense that, Patrick Graham is running, but also morphing in with Pete Carroll. That's why. And I remember talking to Eric Stokes in the locker room last week, and he said, we're still working on trying to figure this out. That was going into week 16.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So there's not much else to say about that. Let's get to Todd Hamblin, 1858. Speaking on concussions with JPJ's history, what's your guys' thoughts on him needing to wear a guardian cap?
I'm surprised he doesn't have one on now, to be honest. I really am. He's already got a helmet that's bigger than most people's helmet, if you notice it.
Yeah.
But I'm surprised that he doesn't have that, because exactly what was said. Yeah, he's got a concussion history. He had a concussion history when he was at Oregon. I think that's part of the reason why he's not playing center. I know a lot of Raider Nation doesn't want to hear that, but there's multiple reasons why he's not playing center. I think that plays a small part. I'm surprised he doesn't wear a guardian cap. I would.
I think it comes down to choice, Q and Shantelle. I think it comes down to choice. They probably give him the option to put it on, but you can't make a guy wear it.
Right.
You know what I mean? He'll take it off the first moment he could. So I think it comes down to a choice.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to Casanova, who says, a question for Q and Professor Kennedy. What's on the menu today? It's Christmas and NBA games, NFL games. I thought it was an NBA game, but the NFL's kind of taken over a little bit. What's on the menu for y'all today?
I don't know. I swear, if you came in my house right now, and Lincoln will be here on Monday, there'll be you would not even know it was the holidays. There's not one sign that there's any kind of holiday around. It looks like a normal day in the Myers house. I'm just saying, there's no lights, there's no tree, there's no presents, there's no nothing. It don't even smell like the holidays in the house. I'm just saying.
That's because Q's the hardest working man in the business. So
that's right. And he's frank. And he's frank right now. He's frank. Yeah. He's being frank. You know what? I'm going to go out and get some tamales. My son and I, my University of Las Vegas is here after their bowl game. So my other son is with his mother in California, but I'm going to go out and get some tamales, and I'm just going to chill in my spot.
Oh, I'm on my way.
I've got my chair. I've got my little TV stand. I'm going to have my drinks. I'm going to be ready to go, but my feet are going to be up. I'm going to be chilling with a little NBA action, because this is when I do watch the NBA. I can start to get in the NBA at Christmas time.
Good game today. Good game. They got 5 of them bad boys that are really good games.
I'll be flipping the channels.
Yeah, and it starts just in a half an hour as well. Yep. But NBA is usually
like, so we need to wrap this up.
hey, it's a good game, Knicks and Cavs, right? At 9 a.m. on the West Coast. I'll say this though, on Christmas Day, it's usually for NBA games. I think everyone knows that, right? That's when we kind of get focused on the NBA. But now there's these NFL games, and the NFL slate is actually pretty good too. So what are you guys watching? Are you watching more NFL today? Are you watching more NBA?
No, the schedule, the games on paper in the NFL are great games. Yeah. But if you look at them, none of them really mean anything, right? I mean, Dallas and Washington, in theory, that's a great game, right? Yeah. But the Cowboys are out of it, and there's no Jaden Daniels for Washington. They're out of it. That doesn't mean anything. The Chiefs in Denver, they play tonight. Well, that would mean something. That's the AFC West, showdown. The Chiefs are out of it. Denver's running away. That's not a big deal. What is it? The Vikings? Don't the Vikings play? Is that the other game?
Yeah.
Is there 3?
Yeah. There's 3 of them. Oh, okay. 2 on Netflix and 1 on Prime Video. That's where they get you. Absolutely. And we had this debate the other night on ESPN Radio, and everyone thought I was like, oh, he's just an old man. He doesn't know what he's doing. If you go, what they do on Thursdays when you do Prime Video, you're on a streaming app. So you can't do like Lincoln, you said, I'll be flipping around the channels. Right. You don't do that on a streaming app, right? You go into Prime Video. So that's why I was like, man, that's why they're doing that. The NFL smart. They're trying to get you on a streaming app, and then all of a sudden you're stuck. Because a lot of people aren't just going to go and when you try to flip, you're like, oh wait, I forgot I'm on Netflix. Oh, I'm on Prime. All right, never mind. NBA, I got ESPN and ABC. Boom, 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 boom. I can just go back one channel. Like, I don't know. Anyway, it is what it is.
6 teams that I don't care about. I'm watching NBA.
I think it's a good betting day.
Detroit's fighting for their lives, right?
Yeah.
But the other 2 games don't really mean anything. So on the schedule, it looked great, but it's not really that great.
No, I agree. And OKC and the Spurs play, but I think it's a good betting day for football. I would take the over 1.5 on Dak Prescott touchdowns.
We know where your head's at, sis.
I'm thinking about betting. But Merry Christmas, Raider Nation. Thanks so much for hanging out with us this morning on Christmas morning. We do appreciate you. We'll be back on Monday. Q and Linc will be live. Oh, sorry. Frank and Linc will be live from Q Studios. And we're going to get that Nike sponsor soon. Just saying that. That's going to be the Christmas wish. But thank you so much, Raider Nation. Enjoy your holidays. Enjoy Christmas.
Merry
and
Christmas,
we'll be back
Nation.
on Monday.
Can I tell you guys, this show has been so much fucking fun. I'm glad we're off the air. Sometimes I can't hold my tongue.